Then the 10th point, وَلَا يُشْبِهُ الْأَنَامِ, and he does not resemble the creation. Allah does not resemble the creation. Shaykh Fawzan said, this is like the wording which has already preceded, وَلَا شَيْءَ مِثْلُهُ, and there is nothing like him. And this is point number 10 here, is like point number 3. He said, and the saying, وَلَا يُشْبِهُ الْأَنَامِ, and he does not resemble the anam. He said, the meaning of anam is the creation, al-khalq. And Allah does not resemble the creation. He said, so Allah, the Perfect and Most High, is free of any resemblance to the creation. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing like him, and he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Surah Ash-Shura, the 42nd surah, ayah 11. And he quotes the second ayah, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, and there is no equal for him. Surah Al-Ikhlas, the 112th surah, ayah 4. There is no equal for Allah. None is equal to Allah. None is equal or like Allah. Shaykh Fawzan said, so he, the Perfect, is free from resembling his creation. And even though he has names and attributes which correspond to names and attributes of the creation in their wording and in their meaning, however, in their reality and in how they are, there is no resemblance between the two. There's no resemblance. Just for an example, to clarify that point, he mentions that Allah has certain names and attributes, and the creation, they have names and attributes which correspond. For example, that Allah is Al-Hayy, the living one, and amongst the creation, there are those who are living, have the attribute of hayat, of life. So the Shaykh said, so the fact that they correspond in their wording and their meaning, but however in their full and true reality and in how they are, there is no resemblance. I mean, the life of the Creator, the life of Allah, is not like the life of His creation. And the life of the Creator and so on, the rest of His attributes are not like the attributes of His creation. Ibn Abdul Izz, in his explanation, he said, on this point, he mentions a number of fine sayings from the Salaf in this regard. He begins by saying, Nu'aym ibn Hammad. If we remember, this was a great Imam, the one that Shaykh Falah mentioned, Hafidhullah, this great Imam who was a contemporary of Imam Ahmad, and he was tortured they tried to force him to say the Qur'an was created, and he refused, and he was imprisoned and chained, and eventually he was chopped to pieces and killed, and remained firm upon that belief. Rahimahullah. So he mentions a quote, Ibn Abil Izz mentions a quote from him on this point, وَلَا يُشْبِهُ الْأَنَامِ, and the creation do not resemble him. He said, Nu'aym ibn Hammad said, مَنْ شَبَّهَ اللَّهَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ خَلْقِهِ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ وَمَنْ أَنْكَرَ مَا وَصَفَ اللَّهُ بِهِ نَفْسَهُ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ وَلَيْسَ فِي مَا وَصَفَ اللَّهُ بِهِ نَفْسَهُ وَلَا رَسُولُهُ تَشْبِيهٌ. He quotes a fine quote from Nu'aym ibn Hammad that he said, whoever declares that Allah is like anything from His creation, then he is an unbeliever. He's committed unbelief. And whoever denies anything from that which Allah has described Himself with, then he has committed unbelief. And there is not in the attributes which Allah has mentioned for Himself, nor in the attributes which His Messenger mentioned for Him, any resemblance. There's not any resemblance in what Allah has mentioned for Himself or His Messenger mentioned for Him. So in other words, a summary, he summarizes here in that fine saying, the belief of the people of the Sunnah. And he mentions the belief of the two deviant groups, the Mushabbihah and the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'attilah. Those who deny Allah's attributes, the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'attilah, and at the opposite extreme, those who affirm attributes for Allah but go beyond bounds and say they're like the attributes of the creation. So in this saying, Nu'aym ibn Hammad has mentioned both the deviant groups and the saying of the people of the truth. I mean, we affirm for Allah whatever He or His Messenger have affirmed for Him. And there's no resemblance with the creation in that. Then he carries on and said, and likewise Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, again the great Imam, contemporary of Imam Ahmad, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh said, whoever describes Allah and declares that His attributes are like the attributes of anyone from Allah's creation, then he is a kafir. He is a disbeliever in Allah the Tremendous One. Just to repeat that, he said, whoever describes Allah and mentions that His attributes are like the attributes of anyone from His creation, then he is an unbeliever. He is a disbeliever in Allah the Tremendous. Then the explainer said, and he also said, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh also said, the sign of Jaham and his companions, one who's known for the Jahmiyyah, the sect of the Jahmiyyah, the sign of Jaham and his companions is their claim against the people of the Sunnah and the Jama'ah, and the lies which they have instigated, that they say the people of the Sunnah are mushabbihah, that they declare Allah to be like His creation. But rather it is just that they are mu'attilah. It is just because they are deniers of the attributes. Then the explainer said, and this was the saying of a great number of the Imams of the Salaf, that the sign of the Jahmiyyah is that they call the people of the Sunnah mushabbihah. The Jahmis, those who deny Allah's attributes, they call the people of the Sunnah who affirm Allah's attributes, they say, you make Allah like the creation, you're mushabbihah. Because there is none from the deniers of the names and attributes except that he calls the one who affirms them a mushabbih, one who makes Allah like the creation. So whoever denies Allah's names altogether, then they are from the extreme apostates, like the Qaramita and the philosophers. And whoever says that Allah cannot be said, it cannot be said about Allah that He is alim, He has knowledge, and it cannot be said, they say, about Allah that He has power, claiming that whoever calls Allah that, then he is a mushabbih. This is what they say. And they say His names are just metaphorical, like the extreme Jahmiyyah.